Alright, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back to You Don't Know Ball. And right back on track, back to our sleepers. We're doing rookie running backs today. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, first running back we got to talk about here is Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin, 4th round pick to the New York Jets, currently 3rd on the depth chart behind Breece Hall and Israel Abanikanda. So, what makes it interesting though, and why I think he is already automatically a sleeper, we know with Breece, there's some injury history there, and even though, again, last year was much better, you never know how that goes, right? There's always volatility there. And then with Abanikanda, I think there's a very fair chance that Braylon Allen could just come in and take his spot outright on the depth chart much sooner than later. He could climb up this depth chart very quick. Now, again, we come over and look at the stats. This is a guy who, back when Wisconsin was running the power-heavy scheme, right, the first 2 years of his Wisconsin career, you see the average is much higher. We're going 6.8 yards a rush, the 5.4, and then he got a much bigger workload that second year. And then when he went to the more zone-heavy scheme, again, though, he was still producing. He just had less touches. He actually was producing, statistically, the exact same with the 5.4 yards a carry. And he got more room to show what he can do in the receiving game, despite the fact that it's only 4.7 yards per reception, 28 receptions. He's got hands, too. He can go out there and make things happen out of the backfield. So he's a guy who is, dual purpose, despite the fact that he is more of a wrecking ball style of runner. And also, he's going to be just a fantastic complement to Breece Hall. This is a guy who, again, I don't know where he's going to stand in dynasty drafts, or he's going to stand in single season. All I'm going to tell you is if you can get him in good value, wherever you believe is good value, where you don't feel like you're reaching, Braylon Allen has a chance at some point this season, again, like I'm saying, or anything, if Breece Hall goes down, he could start for a period of time and be really taking the majority of those touches out of the Jets running back room. So Braylon Allen is somebody you definitely need to remember and be ready to click their name if you have the opportunity in your fantasy drafts. All right, and then next up, it's only right that we talk about Audric Estime out of Notre Dame, 5th round pick to the Denver Broncos, currently 3rd on the depth chart behind Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. Now, just off the bat, I'm going to say right to you right now, I think of all the guys we're going to talk about today, Audric might be the guy who produces the most fantasy value, especially from year one and long term for you guys. And here's the reason. We already know Javonte, ever since that rookie year, dealing with the injuries, has never lived up to that same hype, has never gotten back to that same standard. And then Samaje Perine, call it for what it is, he's hitting a point in his career where he's going to be replaceable by a younger guy rather quickly, in my opinion. So, the reality of the situation is you have 2 guys ahead of him that very, very likely could be replaced much sooner than later. And Audric Estime coming in, man, human wrecking ball. This is a dude who I think very quickly is going to take that starting job. It could even be by midway through this year. Again, I don't know where he's going to be available in the drafts, but all I'm telling you is you are going to be getting absolutely fantastic value. And if there's anybody you want to maybe reach on a little bit, it should be Audric, because you are going to be getting amazing value with him, I do promise. And again, we come over and look at the stats. Again, freshman year, we don't have any sample size. We look at the last 2 years, right? There was a clear jump from that sophomore year to that 3rd season. And the reality is, look, we went from 5.9 yards a carry to 6.4, but also we got a lot more carries, up to 1341 in terms of yards, 18 touchdowns. Over the last 2 seasons, we're looking at a 29 touchdown total. And then also, again, he doesn't get much volume in the receiving game, but when he does, 8.4 yards, 8.4 on the final season, and then 15 in the second season. So this is a guy who provides you much more value in terms of just a pure power runner, but he still can make things happen out of the backfield given the opportunity. He can truly be a 3-down back in the Sean Payton offense. And even though, they're still going to, they'll scat back things, it's the Sean Payton way, they're not going to play him every snap. But again, in terms of guys that you're going to be getting fantastic value on, Audric, in my opinion, probably is the guy out of this year's running backs where you could get him later than the value is going to be, where you're going to be getting so much higher value than where you're drafting him. I think that this is a home run if you have the opportunity. And wherever you're comfortable drafting him, where you don't feel like you're reaching too much, I'm telling you, you'll be happy with this pick. All right, up next we got Isaac Guerendo, 4th round pick to the San Francisco 49ers out of Louisville. And he is 3rd on the depth chart behind Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. But obviously, you're saying to yourself, okay, he's got, some really good running backs in front of him. Where's the value? But that's the thing, is the value comes in terms of, look, Christian McCaffrey, obviously last year, fantastic year, but we know Christian McCaffrey has definitely dealt with injuries in the past. And whenever you deal with injuries in the past, you always have to ask yourself, is it likely that he's going to be dealing with them again sometime in the future? It is very possible. And same with Elijah Mitchell. So all of a sudden, you have a guy that could end up being more of a spot starter whenever there's injuries that happen, and a high value one at that. And anything, just disregard all that. This is a guy who I do believe can be a starter for them in the future at some point if they can, if they can just keep him on the roster and find that role for him when the time comes. He might be more of a stash for later guy, but I do think you're getting fantastic value, and let's touch on why. We come over and look, right? The first thing that should, stand out to you is we're looking at a guy with only 231 college career carries. That's a very low number, very low tread on the tires. There are some guys that get more than that in one season of their college career. So you're getting a guy, very minimal tread on the tires coming out, which to me is always a huge thing I look for. And then last year, we can talk about the other years, but there really wasn't much production here at Wisconsin, kind of just chilling, behind Braylon Allen, not really getting much of a role. But then at Louisville last year, on only 132 carries, averaging 6.1 yards a carry, 810 yards, 11 touchdowns, 22 receptions, definitely versatility out the backfield, 10.6 yards a reception. Isaac Guerendo, again, a guy you're going to likely, stash and not use right away. But I'm telling you guys, in terms of pure value, Isaac Guerendo is definitely one of those guys that is down the upper side of the value you're getting in terms of just whether you get to play him this year because of injuries or in the future when either guys move off of the Niners roster or whatever happens. I think Isaac Guerendo is going to be one of those guys, fantastic value. You're going to want to hold him, stash him, and if you're comfortable wherever he falls and you don't feel like you're reaching too much, definitely a guy you're going to want to be clicking his name on your fantasy drafts. All right, next we got to talk about Will Shipley, 4th round pick to the Eagles out of Clemson, currently 3rd on the depth chart behind obviously Saquon Barkley and then Kenneth Gainwell. But just for starters, I think he'll be able to take that second spot from Gainwell rather quickly, if not by the end of training camp. And then, as far as Saquon Barkley goes, we know Saquon is an amazing all-world running back when he's healthy. But we know Saquon, same as we were just talking about with Christian McCaffrey, even though coming off of a relatively healthy season, we know that in the past he's dealt with a lot of injuries, and that very well could be something that happens again in the future. Once you deal with them, it's kind of something that's always something we got to be looking forward to in the future. Will Shipley is that guy who, if any injuries happen to Saquon, very likely taking that starting job, getting the majority of the touches over Gainwell, again, rather quickly. And we're talking about a guy who provides you value out of the backfield in terms of running and in the receiving game. He can play that scat back role. He can play that power back role. You're getting major versatility with Will Shipley as the bottom line. Now, if you're talking about an issue with him is, yes, he's coming out of college with a lot of tread on the tires, 526 career carries in college. But the productivity was always there. Never a season he averaged under 5 yards a carry, which is very impressive. Again, he's always had that backfield versatility, 38 receptions the prior year and then 31 this year. So he provides you value in both ends. And more than anything, just the way the Eagles depth chart is set up as we were just discussing, Will Shipley is somebody who could definitely find himself getting starting touches for you guys sooner than later. So if Will Shipley's available to you wherever you're comfortable, dynasty or single season, he's going to be a guy you are going to want to be ready to click that name because you could be getting starting value for much later than you draft him. All right, up next we got Tyrone Tracy Jr., 5th round pick to the New York Giants, currently 3rd on the depth chart behind Devin Singletary and Eric Gray. Now, right off the bat, we could sit here and discuss and say, is Eric Gray going to get the opportunity before him? It just depends what you think. Me personally, though, I think Tyrone Tracy has the higher upside. And, look, as far as Devin Singletary goes, I don't know how Devin Singletary is going to perform, right? Coming off of a good year last year, but a guy who is seemingly, kind of replaceable. Just call it for what it is. And if Tyrone Tracy looks better in camp, again, we look here, a guy with also, despite all the years in college, don't let it fool you, only 146 career touches in college. Again, talk about a guy with minimal tread on the tires, going to be coming in super fresh. Really, if we only look at the last 2 years, even though there really is not much even sample size there the first year at Purdue, we look at the average, yards per carry, 8.1 and then 6.3. This is a guy who just big body. He's he despite the big body, he's also an elusive guy. He has definitely a nice niche to his game where the power and elusiveness is a very nice combo off of each other. And he also has that backfield versatility. Again, 19 receptions, 132 yards, nothing special, but he can catch the ball, provides value for you. And he's definitely a guy who has, like I've been harping on, but he's a very nice combo of power and elusiveness. And I think he very, very quickly could end up taking the starting job in the New York Giants running back room. Again, now Eric Gray could get that opportunity first. I don't think that's how it's going to go, though. I do truly believe that with Tyrone Tracy, you're getting the higher upside. I think he's going to impress very much in camp this year. And in terms of where you're going to be able to get him in your drafts, I think you're going to be able to get him, again, just similar to all these guys, much later than the value provides, given the information we've talked about. And if you want to take him wherever, wherever you're comfortable, this is a guy providing you fantastic value as long as you're not reaching too much. But even if you do, again, you just stash him for when he becomes that starter. I do truly believe this is going to be a guy who will be a starter sooner than later, even by some point, midway through the year this year. So get yourself a starting running back later in those drafts, later in those dynasty, later in those single season. Potential guy that can really push you far in your league this year. Definitely don't sleep on Tyrone Tracy Jr. All right, and then to close us out of our sleepers here for the running backs, we got Ray Davis, 4th round pick out of Kentucky to the Buffalo Bills, currently 2nd. Matter of fact, the only guy we can say that for on this list of sleepers. 2nd on the depth chart already, behind only James Cook. Now, obviously, James Cook coming off of a great season last year definitely made the jump Bills fans were looking for. But again, we know how things go with running backs. It's volatile. If there was an injury to happen to James Cook this year, all of a sudden, Ray Davis is going to step in and take those touches and provide you guys fantastic fantasy value. And even if that doesn't happen, right, even if that's not the case, this is a guy who's going to provide you spot value, right? He's going to get a fair amount of touches regardless, I do believe, whether James Cook is injured or not. He provides a good complement to James Cook. He's got some power. He's also definitely got a lot of elusiveness and a lot of speed to his game. Really, really nice combo. More than anything, I think the thing I like most about Ray Davis is I love his story. And if you don't know it, I suggest you go look it up. It's very inspirational, good stuff. But Ray Davis is one of those guys coming in just playing for a lot, playing for just more, maybe you could say, than other guys. Really has something to prove with that chip on his shoulder. And he went to a spot in Buffalo where the running game has been great for a long time. And he provides that perfect complement to James Cook. And again, just back to he very well could slide in. I don't think he's going to take James Cook's starting job with things the way that they're laid out right now. But if any injury were to happen, again, we know with running backs, things move quickly in the NFL, things change quick. And if something happens to James Cook, this is going to be a guy providing you fantastic starting value right away. And, we go to the numbers. Again, I will admit, 746 career touches, a little scary, right? He's one of the guys who's definitely on the upper end, if not the highest end of the guys we've talked about today. But productive whenever he had the opportunity, even all the way back at 2019 in Temple, right? This is a guy who's always been a productive running back, getting close to 5 yards a carry almost every season. And then last year at Kentucky, right, almost up to 6 yards a carry for rounding up, 14 touchdowns. He also provides you really good value out of the backfield. Definitely a very versatile running back. So, and we know how things go, especially in PPR. Ray Davis is going to provide you guys great value. Definitely not someone to sleep on. Take him wherever you're comfortable in your fantasy drafts, but this is a guy going to be providing you fantastic value for where you're going to be able to draft him. And that's exactly why I had to have him as our last sleeper for today. All right, and that'll do it for our fantasy sleepers today. Thanks so much for sticking around if you made it to this point. If you enjoyed, drop a like, drop a sub. We got tons more content coming for you guys soon. You have a great rest of your day.